Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a virtual training webinar hosted by the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, Office of Small and Disadvantaged Business Utilization, and the Strategic Outreach and Communications Program. Please note, all participants will remain muted for the duration of this session. If you experience any connectivity issues while logged in, we suggest disconnecting and logging in again. If that does not resolve your issue, please use the WebEx dial-in and access code to rejoin the session. This session will be recorded, and a copy of the presentation, as well as a link to view the recording, will be made available to you within 48 hours. Please take a moment to locate the Q&A panel and chat window on the lower right side of your screen. Please only use the Q&A panel to type in your questions to the panelists, and only use the chat feature for brief networking, introductions, and kudos. At the conclusion of today's event, you will be prompted to complete a brief survey. We greatly appreciate your feedback. Before we begin, I would like to welcome Mr. Curtis Brandon with the Strategic Outreach and Communications Program and Program Federal Lead of the Direct Access Program, who will provide opening remarks on behalf of VA OSDBU and introduce our presenter for today's training webinar. Welcome, Mr. Brandon.
Thank you, Amanda. Greetings and good afternoon from the Department of Veteran Affairs, Office of Small and Disadvantaged Business Utilization. On behalf of our leadership, we thank you for your participation in today's virtual training webinar. VA OSDBU remains committed to employing innovative methods to promptly inform you about relevant procurement opportunities, training, and information. Virtual events we conduct would not be possible without the support of industry partners and programs like MicroMarket. We are grateful that Mr. William Randolph, the founder of Think Acquisition, made time in his busy schedule to host today's event. Strategic Outreach and Communications is dedicated to small business procurement readiness through various programs, outreach events, and education and training. We routinely conduct a variety of engaging online events designed to facilitate meaningful interactions and foster relationships. We encourage all to continue to visit our website to stay updated on upcoming events and valuable opportunities to connect and collaborate. We also extend our thanks to everyone who supports the department in its mission to serve our nation's veterans. Thank you. Back to you, Amanda.
Thank you, Mr. Brandon. Mr. Randolph, you may begin.
Awesome. Thank you so very much. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you. And it is a pleasure, colleagues, everyone on the call, to be with you as well. My name is William Randolph, and we're going to be talking a little bit about micro purchasing and government contracting. Specifically, what is your $10,000 offer? As I said earlier, my name is William Randolph. I'm a retired contracting officer, a senior procurement executive. I've been a head of contracting activity before. Of all the titles that I've had, including being a veteran of the United States Navy, I think contracting officer is probably the one that I like the most. It is my pleasure. It is my pleasure to be with you. As you see, my journey didn't do too bad in the federal government. You know, from a standpoint of having a career. I retired in 2016. Did a little bit of consulting around the DC metro area, and then in 2019 founded a training and development company. I think I found the thing I was put on the planet to do was education and training, and so this is my opportunity to not only be a part of the entrepreneurial landscape, but to give back to my colleagues in the federal government as well as small business and entrepreneurial space. And in 2024, we founded a micro-purchase marketing research platform called MicroMarket, and we'll tell you a little bit more about that in just a few moments. Colleagues, let's just set the stage. The cheese is moving. Okay? If you've ever heard of the book called Who Moved My Cheese, it's all about change. And colleagues, I tell you, change is afoot. It's happening. It's happening. But But let's talk about micro purchasing because I think it's a valuable contracting method and strategy to be used. So let's talk about it. And I feel we have the responsibility to address the elephant in the room. Okay. When you talk about micro purchasing, we have to recognize that the administration has currently placed a 30-day freeze on government purchase cards. Okay. Government purchase cards and travel cards. And those that are still using or have a demand signal to use the cards have to go get approval to do that. This was about actually 3 weeks ago. But let me just share with you that I, along with you, are feeling the changes. I had a day or two to cry in my beer, but I think this too shall pass. And here's why I say that. As of March the 11th, the pilot program that was reviewing 16 civilian agencies for their number of cards, unused and unneeded cards. Okay, these are the 16 categories. One of the things that I am pleased to report is that the VA and the Department of Defense were not included in that pilot. So here's what I believe is that at some point, and I think some point soon, there'll be a government purchase card 2.0, and we need to be ready when that purchase card program reestablishes itself in whatever it looks like post its efficiency review. I'm a believer that you can't take the magnitude of government contracting that was of purchasing that happened on government purchase cards across the government and not replace it with something. So we're going to have something, and I believe in the ability and the responsibility to make some strategic bets on where we think we're going to be going. As a result of that, colleagues, I think there is still a faster way to start and grow a government contracting business, specifically for small businesses. I think there's a way. And that way, colleagues, is through using the government purchase card program. Now, here's why I am such a fan, colleagues. Here's why I'm such a fan. Because on the 3rd of April of 2019, I was awarded my very first government contract, very first contract in the business. I was, as what people now call, a new entrant. And guess what that contract looked like? It was a $4,800 purchase card order. This is how we started the business, with a micro purchase, $4,800. Having a conversation with a requirements owner in the morning. In the afternoon, we were quote unquote under contract via a purchase card, with funds coming to the bank in about 48 hours. As a small, emerging, and growing business, that's the kind of sales cycles that you need. And from that point on, I was a fan of micro purchases. Since that time, in the first 2 years of the business, we did over $200,000 worth of micro purchases. So I know that it works. I know it's a real thing. Micro purchase life cycle is similar to the long form solicitation model. The government has a need. They issue some form of notice, either that's a reach out, someone they already know, or someone that they have had exposure to. Maybe it's even a Google search, and they do some market research. They they have an opportunity to select a vendor. They do their market research, make a selection, the work is done, and then the activity is over. But unlike the long form, colleagues, this is counted in hours and days, not months and sometimes years. This is the value of micro purchasing. Okay, so what is micro purchasing? Let's just get to the foundational aspects of it. It is any purchases in the aggregate that does not exceed the micro purchase threshold. Today, for most professional services, products and services, that current threshold is $10,000. A couple of different other thresholds for construction and blue collar services that are governed by the Service Contract Act. Think HVAC and electrical and pest control and painting and things of that nature. But for most professional services, the threshold is $10,000. Those purchases are not subject to the same competition and set-aside rules as simplified acquisitions or larger contracts over the simplified acquisition threshold. The language actually says buyers should consider three quotes. Should consider three quotes. That's the test. Something that the government purchases, and they do some level of market research. Here's a couple other concepts. One, again, the difference between micro purchases and then the next level threshold of activity that's set aside for small businesses, which is the simplified acquisitions, is that, again, they do not exceed $10,000 and are purchased on the government purchase card. The purchases can be made directly and not subject to the same competition and set aside rules. Rarely terms and conditions, clauses or provisions can be made directly to the contractor using the government purchase card. And which is the value proposition for small businesses, is that the micro purchases demand much less capture and bid and proposal activity and associated resources. It's to be known, to be seen when the government is looking. That's the test for micro purchases. Colleagues, prior to the review, those level review that happened a few weeks ago, there were over 700,000 purchase card holders across government. I think the actual number is 700,281 at the end of FY24. So in October of 24, there were 700,281 card holders. Now, when you think about 700,281 card holders, one could say, could one make an argument? Is there some efficiencies that could be made there? Perhaps. 700,281 is a pretty big number. But colleagues, that's not the biggest number. And I want to introduce you to the stats from fiscal year 24. We'll talk about big numbers. Colleagues, let's look at the bottom line. Let's go find that number, third column of numbers, 700,281 card holders. That was the number of card holders across government. One column over to the left, those 700,281 card holders executed over 20 million transactions, 20.5 million transactions. And cumulatively, those 20.5 million transactions culminated in over $27 billion with a B, $27 billion with a spin. And colleagues, why I am so happy to be here today and talking with you. The Veterans Administration is the largest user of the government purchase card program with over $17 billion with a spend, 4 times the next largest, which is the next largest department, which is the Department of Defense collectively. Lots of spending happens. And as you can see from the spend per transaction, farthest column to the right, average dollar spend is $2,250 in the VA, and even less. The average across all of government, a little over $1,300. So colleagues, this is why I say the opportunity is for building, growing, expanding a government contracting business through the government purchase card is a great opportunity. Again, encapsulating the stats from the previous page, 20.5 million transactions, $27.3 billion worth of purchases. The that spend is roughly 70-30, 70% products, 30% services. And I use this word intentionally, only about a third of that, actually I think the number is 35%, is awarded to small businesses at this level. I think there's a grand opportunity, especially for us veterans, service-disabled, veteran-owned small businesses to participate, and other businesses to participate, other socioeconomic categories also to participate in the micro purchasing activity, because it's about only 1/3 of it is going to small businesses right now. And this is the place where I think the learning to become a government contractor actually begins. So colleagues, when you think about micro purchases, you may have a lot of ideas in your head. Shredding may come to mind, or locksmiths may come to mind, or products, lots of products and supplies may come to mind. In terms of services, you might think of janitorial, but I encourage you to think about reimagining the micro purchase services, specifically the services space. Products are pretty hard and fast, but the services, lots of opportunity for services. When you think about micro consulting, small bits of consulting, webinars and trainings and professional services, even keynote speeches, offsites, instructional design support for education materials, virtual lunch and learns, subject matter expertise, back office activity, even source selection advisory roles, and emerging tech modules and sprints. There's a lot of value, a lot of small dollar value can be acquired via micro purchases. This is the value proposition, colleagues. And I don't talk to this from a standpoint of this is theory. Okay, this isn't a list that ChatGPT made for me. Our company itself has done all of these except the last one, the emerging tech modules, test and sprints. And that's just because that's not the business that we're in. All of the others, including academic researchers, academic smart people that have done analysis. We've had individuals on the team that have been acquired, hired, contracted for in small bits and pieces, 3 days, 2 days, 1 week, 2 weeks, to help government advance their requirements, advance their mission needs statements, do analysis, all types of market intelligence. This is a list. I implore you even to think about your services, and even your products, because there have been individuals with products that have turned their products into services to meet the micro purchase threshold dollar value. Colleagues, I encourage you, and here's the second piece to this. I encourage you to think about micro purchasing as bite-sized candy bars, bite-sized value, offering the government bite-sized value. Okay? When you think about government is very interested, again, I did it for 26 years, very interested in low-risk, high-speed activity. Low-risk, high-speed activity. So you may not know if you like Kit Kat bars. Government may not know if they're willing to accept the goods and services from a new company. But as soon as you taste the bite-sized one, it's like, oh, I like Kit Kats, not bad. This company symbolically understands how we do business, understands our language, understands government contracting, has an appreciation of our mission, is a good team member, a good partner. The business is done well, invoicing, all the things are done well. Then you can go buy the big one. I'm sure you all remember the large candy bars that are sold at Christmas. I mean, when I go to Target, they buy the 3-foot, they have the 3-foot Snicker bar, 3-foot Baby Ruth at Christmas time. Once you try the little one and you like it, then it's an easier conversation to have to move up the value chain to the larger packages, the larger value. And colleagues, I'm going to share this public service announcement with you. The government does the exact same thing. They make small bets. They make small bets, and then with the small bet, now once they have experienced the service, experienced the product, now not only do they have past performance to make a to make an argument for moving up the value chain, they have experience, capability, past performance, and confidence that the risk is reduced by having a small bite of the candy bar first. That's the value proposition. So this is what it looks like in real time, colleagues. Back during the pandemic years, I think this was probably 22, we did lunch and learns, 1 hour lunch and learns. 1 hour lunch and learn was a $995 endeavor. It was a $995 purchase. So I had a team that purchased a 1 hour lunch and learn for $995. And wow. On a Zoom call for an hour, they were like, wow, this is the greatest thing ever. We're thinking about having an offsite for our team in about 4 or 5 months. Would you take what you talked about in this hour, expand it for a half day, and come to Dallas and do a pricing and negotiations workshop for our negotiation team, our organizational level negotiation team? The answer was, of course I could do that. And that almost $40,000 contract started with a $995 purchase card order. That's the value proposition. And it can move up from there. So colleagues, if you're wondering if you can do it, the answer is absolutely yes. Yes, you can. Other businesses, other humans have done it, so it's capable of being replicated. It's capable of being replicated. It's a strategy. It's there. And again, I do believe after the freeze, there will be a government purchase card 2.0. Will it be smaller? Likely. Will it be nimble, more nimble, or hyper-focused, or even truncated? Perhaps. But again, $27 billion went through the program. So even if it's cut in half, it's $13.5 billion. I'm not sure whether the more efficient contracting strategy. Again, I lived inside of government contracting for 26 years. Micro purchasing via the government purchase card is likely one of the most efficient contracting strategies and procurement strategies. What is the alternative to that? Okay. What is the alternative to that? So for new and young companies looking to do the crawl, walk, run, then fly model, because I think that's the way government contracting is learned. Okay. But you start small, you build the muscles, you go in the gym and build the muscles that'll then will allow you to fly. I think this is a strategy to do that. My concern has always been there are lots of companies that will gladly charge and take $10, $15, $20,000 of your money to teach you how to win government contracts. I'm sure there is a company in the country that has used that model and has been successful. My concern has always been, it was my concern when I was in government and when I was building my own company, is that I was always fearful of the winning a contract and not having the muscles to actually deliver it. That's the concern. So if you're looking to crawl, walk, run, then fly, I think this is an opportunity to do so. Also, for those growth-minded companies that are seeking to expand their reach and expand their territory, please understand that I think micro purchasing could be the missing piece to your 2025 growth plan. This is what I believe. Okay? There's no more effective way to reach government contractors, for government contractors to reach government agencies and buyers than through the today approaching 700,000 cardholders that have goods, that have needs of goods and services. You just need to be seen when the government is looking. Okay. So let's talk next steps. We know what micro purchasing is. We know what it looks like. We know what it has been. We know what it's going to be. Or we have a sense of what it may be. We have a sense of what it may be, but it's going to be something. So putting ourselves in position to be effective going forward. Here's a couple of data points. Colleagues, before all of the efficiency activity, please understand that the micro purchase and the simplified acquisition thresholds, both of them were poised and positioned for threshold increases come FY26. FY26, October 1st. Colleagues, just think about if today the $27 billion that flowed through the micro purchase threshold at $10,000, think about what that could look like with the proposed threshold increase to $15,000. That's in the queue right now. The research to support the proposed increase suggested that an additional $9 billion worth of spend would be unlocked by simply to the purchase cards by simply moving the threshold from $10,000 to $15,000, an additional $9 billion worth of spend. Question is, are you going to be ready for that? Also, in addition to that, the simplified acquisition threshold also proposed to increase by $10,000. These are just the normal inflationary increases that happen every 5 or 6 years. So colleagues, if you sell products, please know that GSA today, right now, has anointed 8 platforms, eight platforms to be the commercial platforms for micro purchase services. Micro purchase products, excuse me for that. Here are the 8. I want to run through these with you really quick, just so you know, just in case you're in the products business and that you're looking for platforms to sell your products, that you know where to go. Amazon Business, of course, is just an extension of Amazon. And by the way, they're eating all the lunches in this space. They're eating all the lunches. I think there was a GAO report that came out in probably 23 that said they were Amazon Business in this commercial platform space. They were winning about 90% of the work. Over 90% of the purchases were going through Amazon Business. E-procurement services, again, commercial products. Amazon Business, obviously, products. E-procurement services, commercial products. Fisher Scientific, laboratory equipment, instruments, consumables, furniture, storage, chemicals, life science products, all products. G-commerce, it's a concierge platform for IT, industrial, general equipment needs. Again, products. All of these are products. Here's 4 more. Granger, any of you have any awareness of or interaction with tools, piece parts, machinery piece parts, replacement parts. Granger is in the piece parts products business. Noble is in the industrial and office management products business. Pacific Inc., women-owned small business offering office, facility, industrial supplies. Again, products. And then Staples, office, janitorial, future, furniture, print, technology, shipping, and safety supplies. Lots of places for supplies. These 8 have been anointed as places for supplies. Colleagues, if you sell services, I want to introduce you to a services resource, MicroMarket.co. MicroMarket.co is a micro purchase services platform. We looking for the platform to offer our micro purchase services. We're in the training and development space, and we were looking for the place as a company that had not yet invested in GSA schedules to be available and be seen on eBay. Where does one go to see? Where does one go to be seen? And we went looking and we couldn't find the place. So we started building it for us. And then in the middle of it, we was like, wait a minute, if we build it for us, we can't be the only company that is similarly situated. A services company looking for a place to be seen and have not yet invested in GSA schedules to be seen on eBay. So we opened it up for others. Today, I signed up the 770th person just yesterday. But we have 770 small vendors, small business vendors on the platform, hyper focused on professional services, hyper focused on small businesses. We've identified, we looked into the data, we went and we did a Freedom of Information Act request, and we went and got the GSA Smart Pay data, that is the data from the purchase card program. And we identified the 14 categories of purchase card spend that the government is currently spending dollars in. We didn't try to recreate the wheel. We just wanted to make a better wheel, a wheel for micro purchase services. Now there's the 15th category that's just as large as some of these, which is construction. But because of the complexities of construction, okay, we said we'll come back and get them. But for right now, we're going to go the easy button that allows for $10,000 purchasing of micro purchase services. MicroMarket.co is the place, the 14 categories. Right now, the largest categories are the ones with the pictures at the top. Has the largest energy, largest vendors, largest users, largest participation is in the consulting. Education and training is our lead category, but also professional services and information technology. Those are the largest 4, but the other 10 have large representation. There are over 550 offers already on the platform, and over 770 vendors represented. Now, one of the value propositions, because this was purpose-built for the federal government, purpose-built. We were building the thing that we wanted from a business perspective, we wish we had when we started the business. And then as a prior contracting officer, a former contracting officer, I was building the thing that I wish I had when I was in government. One of the things I wish I had when I was in government was a way to request a request feature for micro purchases. Right now, there isn't a request feature. The goodness of your micro purchasing has a 100% correlation to the goodness of your market research. So if you have platforms, then you can go to the platforms and do your market research. If you don't have a platform, then most micro purchasing for services market research starts with Google. And if you know anything about Google, the people on the front page of Google paid to be there. So they may not be the best to deliver the service. They're just the ones that made the investment to be seen on the front page. And I heard our comedian say one time that the best place to hide a dead body is on the second page of a Google search, because people rarely go to the second page of a Google search. So if the first pagers demand an investment to be seen and no one is going to the second page, then how do we be seen as small businesses like you and I? And specifically, how do we build a mechanism that the government can communicate with us for what their micro purchase services are? The request feature is it. They can come and window shop, and if they don't find what they're looking for, they have the ability to post a request that then goes out to all of the vendors on the platform. Post a request feature. It's there and live. Colleagues, it's free to join, free to post your micro purchasing, and there's only 2 fees on the platform. Two fees. One, 7% is the micro purchasing platform fees, transaction fee on sales. So the platform doesn't win until you win. So we have a very vested interest in your success. Okay? Free to join, free to list. We win when you win. 7% of sales. Okay? And then 2.99% for Stripe merchant services. That's our integrated credit card processing. Okay, I even hate to talk about Stripe because that's not something that goes to the platform. That's just a mechanism of the service that we have a credit card processing strategy, a credit card processing company. And we found the best. And Stripe is, by all accounts in the marketplace, the best for credit card processing. So micromarket.co, here's a QR code there if you want to take a look at it. It has a phone-based app, so you can take a look at it as well. You can see it there, but it's free to join and free to list. On the platform, there's information there about becoming a vendor. Go take a look around. I welcome everybody. Just go take a look around and see what's happening on the platform. Again, education and training is the strongest category, but consulting is a strong second. With all that's going on at the federal level, we are now opening it up to state and locals. That was the plan all along, but we just thought we'd have a little more time, a little more robust time to develop the government contracting infrastructure and body of buyers before we ventured into state and local. But in this season of survival, okay, and this is the season that we're in, this is what I think about it. In the season of survival, we have to do the pivots and do the adaptations. So one of the pivots and adaptations for the platform is to also open it up to the state and locals. The value proposition of the platform is simply this. In absence of having a relationship where the government can just reach out and pick up the phone and send you an email, how do you be seen? And if you have a strategy, which I believe every business, large or small, should have a micro purchasing strategy. If you have a strategy to be seen, then MicroMarket probably isn't the place for you. This was designed for individuals that don't have a infrastructure to be seen, and so we can then collect and aggregate the supply to attract the eyeballs, to attract the services. All right, colleagues, and with that, I want to say thank you very much, and I'm going to open it up now. We've got some questions. I know there were lots of questions, so however you'd like to start that, or in the chat if there are questions. Okay, I see some information. Please type your questions in the Q&A panel. Excellent, so we don't miss them. Okay, we're going to open that up right now. Okay, and I'm here to answer just about any form of question as long as it's relative to government contracting and micro purchasing. So thank you very much. And I'm going to shift down to my point of contact information. Please feel free to reach out. Okay. I welcome your participation in micro purchasing first. Okay. Every company in my business, every company, in my opinion, as a business interested in growing and interested in revenue, should have a micro purchasing strategy. If you have products, there are lots of places for you to go. If you have services, we offer you to take a look around, to poke around at MicroMarket and see if that's for you. Again, free to join, free to list, 7% transactions on sales, 2.99% on on credit card processing, excuse me. So I welcome, please connect on LinkedIn if you aren't in any other way. I have lots of opinions on things and I share them there, including on micro purchasing and strategies for and growing and maturing your government contracting business. Okay. And with that, I'm gonna give you the last call for connections. Grab the QR code, and then I'm gonna stop sharing and let's just open it up and have a conversation.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Randolph. That was good information. You know, the participants definitely like they received some great information from you, so much appreciated. We do have a few questions in the Q&A box. I just want to let everybody know we respect your time and respect everyone's time. So we are unable to get to your question today. We will make sure that we answer your question at a later time. So thank you. Let's begin, Mr. Randolph. First question. Do TAA requirements apply to purchase car orders?
They do not. They do not. Even you're not even required to have a SAM registration to perform micro purchases. You have to do three things. One, you have to sell something that can be purchased via credit card. Two, it has to be something that the government actually purchases. And number three, you have to be Section 889 compliant, meaning you have no Russian or no Chinese technology in your goods or services, your products, or affiliated with your activities. Those are the three-part tests for a successful micro purchase.
Got you. Thank you, sir. Is the spending limit slightly higher for tech services?
No, not at this time. It is only $10,000. There are a couple of organizations that have $25,000 for education and training purposes, but most of those are found in the Department of Defense.
Got you. Thank you. What is the typical period of performance, and can the government make consecutive micro purchases? And if so, what is the threshold?
So the typical period of performance can be whatever equates to $10,000. Some of my micro purchases have been an hour long. Like I mentioned, we have $1,000 for an hour. I've done 5-day courses for a small group of people, so it's been a 5-day activity. I've been invited to participate on source selection panels as a non-voting member, and that's been 2 weeks, and that's been like $8,000 or $9,000 for 2-week engagement to be a part of a evaluation panel. So there's no duration in terms of the longevity of the offer. Now, in terms of split purchasing and successive purchasing, there is a prohibition against split purchasing, meaning something that should have been larger than $10,000, that you buy it in $10,000 or less chunks to not go through the long contracting route. There's a prohibition against that. That's problematic. But what I encourage people to do is to think about their buying and maybe I don't think I'm telling tales out of school. I think if you bought something in January and you truly needed some more of it in March, you skipped a month, you might be okay. But I'm not encouraging anyone to try split purchases, try to be too cute. Follow the rules. Don't get your buyers in trouble. That's the last thing you want to do, because that's a opportunity for sales that will then be lost if that card is turned off for improper usage.
Awesome. Thank you. Standard Me was limited to $2,000 on the HVAC consulting with USDA on their card. Is there a process to switch to micro limit? All times were consulting, not service or product.
So it's just a nuance that's having a conversation about consulting versus production performance services or blue collar services. When someone sees HVAC, it's like, oh, okay, that might be people might be putting that already into a category that is Service Contract Act governed. That's the reason for the lower dollar threshold. It isn't because of the activity. It's that the activity is governed by the Service Contract Act. So if you can find your way out of a Service Contract Act governed activity, you get to rise to the $10,000 level. That's why I use the language professional services as a moniker for all of those activities that are not governed by Davis-Bacon in construction and Service Contract Act for other blue collar services.
Thank you. Hello. Thank you for this session. As a relative newcomer to the government work, I have been told that VA buys from veteran-owned small businesses almost exclusively. We are not veteran-owned business. Does that rule of thumb apply to micro purchases as well? We are eager to serve and happy to prove our way through small business opportunities.
Mr. Randolph, are you there?
You all hear me?
I hear you now.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
awesome. Okay, sorry about that. I don't know what happened. It froze for a second. My apologies.
You want me to repeat the question?
Please, yes, because I didn't hear any of it.
Absolutely.
My
Sorry.
apologies.
Yeah, no worries. As a relative newcomer to the government, I've been told that VA buys from veteran-owned small business almost exclusively. We are not a veteran-owned small business. Does this rule of thumb apply to micro purchases as well? We are eager to serve and happy to prove our way through small opportunities.
It does not. As I mentioned in a couple of places, the guidance says it does not have set aside or socioeconomic constructs. Now they do count those. They take that data and they look at the socioeconomic categories that are participating, but there isn't a set aside component to micro purchase activity.
Thank you. You mentioned turning services into products. I'm an instructional designer and educator. What suggestions might you have about turning those services into products that could promote micro purchases for my company?
So as an instructional designer, I've actually purchased some instructional design services on the platform for my training company. So one of those is simply introducing people especially for the government, introducing people to instructional design. If there's someone that wants to learn instructional design, maybe there's a course or a workshop that you could build for instructional design, teaching individuals instructional design, how to effectively build coursework using the ADDIE model, ADDIE. It's an acronym for a model that they use for instructional design. I'm sure you know that if you're an expert in that space. But so there's training, there's a piece to that as well. In the actual instructional design opportunities, it's that if you could build coursework, if someone has created a framework for a course and they want to create a course out of this framework, then that's an opportunity. I've purchased that personally on the platform. I've sold courses and then went and contracted with instructional designers to help me build it out, do the video, do the graphics, and all the things in support of training that we've sold on the platform. So it's indeed possible. You just have to, for a moment, you have to think about it. We have people that sell furniture that sell furniture as a day job, their business. But what they've done is they've done an assessment. They said they will offer a furniture assessment. They'll come to your place, take pictures, do an assessment, do a layout, do a drawing for you for the furniture. Now, think about that for a second. If you're going to contract for someone to do an assessment of your furniture layout, are you then going to go and find somebody else to actually deliver the furniture? Or would you not go to the person that just did the furniture delivery for you, the furniture design for you, to then do the delivery? So there's some connective tissue with micro purchases, and lots of micro purchase products can be turned into services. It just takes a little bit of time and a little bit of ingenuity.
Thank you. Awesome. Hi, are micro purchases contracts paid by credit cards or ACH?
They are paid by credit cards. Yes, so it goes to a credit card processing machine, a credit card processing company, and then it eventually goes into your bank account, usually in 48 hours, 72, 3 days, 2 to 3 days, you've got dollars coming into your bank account.
Thank you. How long are these micro purchases contracts? Are they weeks, 1 month, 2 months for services related to work?
Depends on how much of the service can be provided for $10,000. The limit is the 10,000. The limiting factor is the $10,000. So it could stretch out for a year if the price of that was under $10,000. So there's no duration limits on or longevity limits on the services that can be provided. The only limit is the price of those services, whatever duration they are, can't be over $10,000 today.
Thank you. What is the best way to source micro purchase opportunities once the freeze is lifted?
So it's really 3 ways. One is to be seen where the government is looking. Okay, so we got to find out where the government is looking. We're doing demos and outreaches and events like this with the government to say, hey, we're here. Come see us. We're here. That's one, is to be seen. The other is new or pre-existing relationships. People have to know you exist in order for them to contract with you. And then the third is, if you're going to be on search engines and use SEO to be seen, then that just comes with a sizable investment. I remember early in our business, we did some Google, AdWords type activity to try to get up the search engine results, and it's an investment. It's a serious investment if you're going to do that strategy. So this is why we're deploying this strategy for small businesses that are starting. At some point, once you make $1 million in the business or $500,000 in the business, now you have some dollars, some capital to invest. But it's very hard to make that investment when you're just starting out. So we're building this model as a strategy to access individuals that have talent and capability. They're just new in their businesses without the revenue and the capital to make larger investments.
Nice, thank you. How do we reach the micro purchase buyers?
Same thing we just said. You've got to have pre-existing relationships, because micro purchases are emergent and they're episodic, meaning when it happens, they need it right then. You won't go into any organizations, any department's long-range forecast that says, oh, we're going to do a micro purchase in the 3rd quarter. It doesn't happen that way. There's a demand signal that shows up, and somebody with the purchase card is saying, okay, I need to buy this next week, next month, maybe. Some of our training, we sell training, and maybe they will schedule it for 3 weeks, 3 months later, but it is not long range. So to be seen, the goal is to be seen when the government is looking. And that's why we're building a platform that it's evergreen. That's a phrase used in online marketing, that it's always up. Think of like an evergreen tree. It's always green. It's always up. That's the model that we're using. Similar to Amazon business, is that you don't know you need a toilet brush, a toilet bowl brush until you need one. But when you need one, guess where you're gonna go? There's a place that sells them. Our goal is to be the place that sells micro purchase services from small businesses. So that's the strategy, is to build a place where people know when to come when they need the services.
So thank you. Mr. Randolph, I appreciate your enthusiasm, shipmate. You mentioned the proposed expansion of the GPC threshold to 15,000. I think in that spirit of making government purchasing faster and with less bureaucracy, that the GPC threshold will expand beyond the 15K. We have so many vehicles beyond the standard SAM.gov vehicle, from SBI odds, OTAs, GWACs. I was thinking a major expansion in the GPC threshold may come to fruition. Your opinion?
I don't think in this environment, outside of the current administration, and this isn't a political thing, I'm just saying outside of the current environment, I would have like, perhaps, that for a while there was a conversation about the micro purchase level going to 25,000. There was actually a bill in Congress. There was a Republican representative from Missouri that had actually submitted a bill in Congress to move the micro purchase from 10,000 to 25,000. So in a previous environment, I was like, perhaps, you never know. I just don't think in this environment that relaxing that in the name of relaxing the micro threshold to something higher in the name of efficiency is it doesn't feel like this is the season for that. So I would be surprised. I would welcome it, but I would be surprised. I'm actually cautiously optimistic that the inflationary adjustments for 26 don't get influenced, and just let them happen, because that tends to be something that's driven by the economy, not by policy, if you will.
Thank you. Is there a connection between MicroMarket and Amazon Business?
Zero. Other than the general concept of a marketplace, there is zero connection. Amazon Business is all products. We are all services, and there are no affiliations with any large businesses on our platform. MicroMarket is owned and operated by Think Acquisition, which is our company. 100% owned and operated by our company.
Thank you. At what rate are micro purchases being contracted for professional services on the MicroMarket platform?
So we are seeing about 2,100 individual visits per week on the platform. That is culminating in about, I would say, $60,000 worth of spending on the platform per week.
Awesome, thank you. This will be the last question before I turn it over. We will gather the questions, the ones that we did not answer, and we will send them to Mr. Randolph so we can make sure we respond to your questions. I had a $9.8 thousand card purchase, and the bank took $350. Is that common?
350 from 9.8. That's roughly 3% of that would be 27. Yeah, that's about reasonable. Not MicroMarket uses Stripe, which is 2.99. Square, which is the other most prominent other prominent credit cards service provider, they move theirs to 3.1. So anywhere between 2.9 and 3.1 is reasonable. The math I always share when I'm doing demonstrations or doing vendor engagement webinars is, if you have a $10,000 offer, $9,000 goes to the vendor, $700 would go to the platform, and $300 would go to Stripe Merchant Services. So it's basically a 90-10 split.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Randolph. I really appreciate your time.
My pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity.
I really appreciate it. Thank you for everything, man. This has been great. Back over to you, Amanda.
Yes, thank you again to our presenter, Mr. William Randolph, founder and chief executive officer at MicroMarket.co, for a very informative presentation and Q&A discussion. As a reminder, after today's event, we ask that you please complete a brief survey evaluating today's session. We also encourage you to continue to visit the Direct Access Programs events page for upcoming programs that may be of interest to you and your network at vetbiz.va.gov/events. Please note the participation of any commercial entities in VA outreach and training programs does not convey or imply that the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs directly or indirectly endorses any product or service provided or to be provided by the commercial entity, its successors, assignees, or licensees. Furthermore, the Department of Veterans Affairs does not warrant any services that may be provided by the commercial organizations listed. To everyone who has joined today's session, thank you on behalf of the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, Office of Small and Disadvantaged Business Utilization, and Strategic and Outreach Communications Program. This now concludes today's session.